Tuning you in now to the LBX show with your host, Brandon Wiley. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the LBX show for April 26, 2026. I'm your host, Brandon Wiley, and we have a really concise, short show lined up for you today. First, we're going to dive into some news you should know, and then we're going to roll right into Open and Shut with Kevin Williams to review the opening and closing trends from the last week. And that'll be it. There's nothing else. We don't have Adam Pratt. We don't have Chuck DeMonte. We don't have Clinton Novak. It is just a really short, packed show for you. So with that, without further ado, let's dive into some news you should know. All right. Well, I am absolutely in love with this new mini golf course featuring extensive medieval theming. It is called Parcadia, and they are opening later this month in Central Illinois. And they are coming from an established escape room operator, so they have tons of experience in theming, tons of experience in technology, and infusing that with their theming and gameplay. And it's the newest venture from CU Adventures. And it will be holding its grand opening in just a few days, April 30th. They're doing a ribbon cutting followed by an open house, and guests are ultimately going to be able to explore a fantasy world and take its high-tech mini golf course, which actually spread throughout 16,000 square feet. I mean, that is a massive mini golf course. I'm just going to scroll through a few pictures here while I'm talking, and I'm absolutely in love with their theming. They've done a phenomenal job. If any of you have ever done medieval times, you'll see some reminiscence there. If you've ever done like a Renaissance festival, it's like that mixed with medieval times, mixed with mini golf, mixed with their own take on the medieval times and theming. And well, there's like some whimsy is stuff to their decorations. And over the course of their operation, they plan to double the size of their existing course, and they also are adding a second course. And so just very cool. There's lots of theatricality. And this is taking place right in Urbana, Illinois. And so Urbana, if any of you are familiar, the Urbana-Champaign area, that's a college town. So I imagine they're going to get plenty of kids, college age students coming in as well and having parties and other things. They are open for all ages up until 9 p.m. and then adults only after 9 p.m. So definitely looking to drive a heavy cocktail and F&B business in addition to their theming. What's cool, though, is they've also added in some immersive theater, sort of. So they're greeted by the world of Parcadia. There's obviously the picturesque medieval village, which you can see here in some of the pictures, like weird creatures, castle walls. There's a mysterious forest. And then the staff are also taking on roles of characters within the story in full costume, pointing out secrets in art installations as well. So they're a part of, escape room operators. There are like little clues and different hidden experiences that you can have while you're there. This isn't just a pure mini golf experience. And, you can just see their tavern. It looks pretty cool. There's like suits of armor. And I mean, they've done a phenomenal job theming this. You do not see this type of theming typically in your standard mini golf experience, especially when we've really seen in this competitive socializing era, this more like high tech, really minimalist mini golf experiences that are high tech driven. This is much more still tech infused, but also heavily themed. And so very excited about this. They're also not deciding to open throughout the entire week, which I think is a really important key business differentiator. So they're open Thursday through Sunday. Thursdays is just 5 to 9. And then on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, it's open a little bit longer. So 2 to 11 on Fridays, and then 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Saturday, and then 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Sunday. So very strategic opening hours, trying to capture, again, that probably more likely adult play. They know that they're not going to be busy on a Tuesday, so why staff up, especially when the staff are heavily dressed in themality. And so it's just adding additional cost for what would probably be very limited throughput. So this is a very strategic business decision. Obviously, they are running escape rooms alongside this, so they don't need to have this part of their business open on a regular basis. But it is a strategic decision, and actually one that probably is worth taking note for those of you who are either looking at reducing your hours, getting really strategic about that. So this is Parcadia out of Urbana, Illinois. Very excited about what they're doing. They've got some good stuff going on. And if I ever get out to that area, which is probably very unlikely, I would absolutely love to go check these guys out and play some mini golf and just enjoy the themality that they've done there. So great job, guys. Keep it up. All right. Next thing on the news you should know, Pixel Games has partnered with Slick City Action Park to provide its standard light up interactive gaming floor called Pixel Floor to its Slick City's European venue. So this is important. This is not coming necessarily immediately to the Slick City locations here in the US. This is starting with their remote operator, their licensed operator in the UK and European environment. And look, they say that Pixel Floor has become an integral part of the Slide Park operator's attractions portfolio. And they say that Slick City is an excellent partner for us. And that's really because if you think about Slick City, if you've ever been to one, and here's a picture of one as well, they have a lot of space underneath their slides for areas where they can deliver additional commercial value. You're beginning to see Slick City adding in arcades as well. They at first were reluctant to do that. And then I think they found that on a revenue per square foot basis, you have to be able to maximize the amount of square footage that you are taking down in order to put in a massive slide. So you're looking to maximize that revenue. Arcades are a great opportunity to do that. In fact, there was just a press release out that Slick City in Texas recently added 67 arcade games to their floor, spread throughout underneath these slides. So definitely makes sense. Pixel Floor being one of those that can go ahead and add on. And I think Slick City's also, at least some of their franchisees anyway, which the European the European group is basically one large franchise. It's Activion. They're one large franchise for the European market. They're realizing that Slick City is a one-trick pony. They're a great experience. People love going there and going down the slides. The kids absolutely love it. We've got great experience. With IntelliPlay, their Slick City's adding IntelliPlay into their solution to gamify their existing park. However, at the same time, you have just slides and you have an air cart and that's maybe it, depending on the Slick City. You need to diversify your portfolio beyond just your slides. The attraction mix we learned this with Gen 1 trampoline parks a decade ago. And so we need to make sure that we're diversifying our attraction mix to make sure we're not just a single attraction model. And so this is what Slick City is now beginning to do retroactively. And it's easy to add in arcade games. It's easy to add in a Pixel Floor. It's easy to add in a Valo Arena or whatever it might be in and around and under these slides. So it's good to see that Slick City, at least in Europe, is doing this. And it does sound like, anyway, the rumors are that Pixel Games will begin rolling out to the US-based venues as well. Obviously, it's on a per franchisee basis because Slick City is a franchise. And so you are going to each franchisee is going to make the decision on what they want to ultimately add into their locations, as long as it's within the bounds of what Slick City corporate allows them to put in. So there are going to be limitations, probably things that are more active driven, although, you do have an arcade games going in, which are not necessarily active play, but I think that they're probably going to at least try to optimize towards more active play attractions going into these particular spaces. So, also we talked about just recently on Open and Shut, but also in the upcoming Sound Off, the fact that Pixel Games has recently launched their classic Atari package. So you could play Pong and Dominoes and Missile Command on the Pixel Floor. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail at Sound Off in just a couple of days. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time there on that front, sharing my thoughts on that added component to Pixel Floor. But this is at least the next installation that Pixel Floor and Pixel Games is seeing across the European market. All right. Next and last for news you should know, this was just a little bit of fun because obviously for those of you who have watched this for some time, you know that I'm a massive Disney fan, not just the Disney parks, but just Disney in general and what they do and how they go about business. And them as a transmedia organization is something, obviously the term that Kevin and I have been really pushing for the last several months to a year. And so there's this new recipe book coming out. So theme park journalists, and you can see their picture here, Carly Caramana, she's the host of the Attractions podcast, and then Julie Tremaine, she's the author of the Disney Villains Cookbook. They've officially partnered together and unveiled their unofficial, they have to call it unofficial, Disney Parks Retro Cookbook. This is published by HarperCollins, and the book is actually slated for release October 13th, 2026. Why am I talking about this now? Well, one, because it's available for pre-order, and I've already pre-ordered mine, so I'm already looking forward to getting this thing. And but the buzz is building, and so it's already claimed the #1 spot on several Amazon bestseller lists, including snacks, theme parks, and tourist destinations. So I'd highly recommend getting on this if you want to get a part of the first edition before the second edition is, print, having to go to print. But what's cool about this, and I'm excited about, is it is not just a collection of recipes. It's actually a deep dive into the archives of Disney history. So there's 60 recipes, and the book spans, and you can just tell by the imagery on the cover, which you can see here, is that the book spans the golden age of Disneyland to the experimental flavors of the modern day Walt Disney World, which also, for those of you who have been watching this for a number of years, know that every time after Expo, I go to Epcot, and I'm there for the food and wine festival. And I love to try all the different food and wine they have throughout Epcot and all the different pavilions. And so very excited to try some of these recipes. So some of them are like, for example, the vintage classics. You could revisit the Red Wagon Inn, which was closed in 1964. They have their lamb chops and mint jelly. Sounds amazing. You have the taco salad in a taco cup from Casa de Fritos. This is the spot where Doritos was actually invented. You have the Eisner era gems. So this is the Master of the Handwich, or the carrot cake cookie from the Writer's Stop. This is back when Hollywood Studios was still actually MGM, before that was sold off to Amazon. And so then you also have some recipes from the Star Wars Galactic Cruiser, which is obviously, I've never got a chance to do because they shut down so quickly, and I never got a chance to go and stay there. But they have their famous iced Felucian blue shrimp cocktail right alongside Steakhouse 55 and Restaurant Marrakesh for favorites from there. And then they've got some you have some drinks as well, so you could sip on the Congaloosh from Pleasure Island's Adventurers Club, or Walt Disney's personal favorite, the Scotch Mist. So anyway, this was really cool because this isn't just about food. It's about history. And each dish is actually paired with untold Disney history, trying to provide context and why these flavors mattered and the stories of the restaurants that served them. So I'm also really looking forward to the monorail club car cocktails from the mid-century charm of the Disneyland Hotel. So anyway, that is the Disney Parks Retro Cookbook, and that is news you should know. Coming up next, we have Open and Shut with Kevin Williams. Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Hey, welcome to the latest Open and Shut. I hope I find you well, Brandon.
You do, yeah. Glad to be back in the studio.
Yeah, you've
right.
been released from your prison.
Indeed. All right, well, let's dive in. See what's on the docket.
Well, it is a thin docket this week. Now, again, I have been in the depths of conference presentations and various meetings, but my general robots or bots came back to me with this kind of list, and we'll have to wait and see if this is the beginning of a trend.
Yeah, wow. We'll see.
We'll see. But jumping straight in at the deep end, and Extreme Rush has another venue open. Now, I am, as I gave that a caveat many sound-offs ago, we have the soft opening and the full opening and the reestablishment. I am led to believe that this is a continuation of the opening after the soft opening that they have been through, but that's 60,000 square, indoor karting, laser tag, the general run of the mill, but under a much more fun center approach.
Okay, yeah, because I'm on their site, and this is the one I remember when we talked about it, because they had the sloth mascot as well, and I was like, man, with the sloth branding and everything else, I'm really expect these guys to expand into multiple locations. But yeah, this is still the same location that we had touched on previously with their soft opening, and good to see that they're ready to go. They're doing their main opening.
The one thing I took away from the difference between their soft opening and where they are now is they have picked up some lessons. And if you'll notice, their logo is now a lot more punchier. And I can mean that a lot of their branding and signage is a lot more punchier. But, these are the things you learn from a soft opening. Urban Air, it's hard to keep up with their, over 450 facilities. This is the latest one. Philadelphia gets it, so they're lucky. But this is one of many within their catchment. The one thing I feel a lot about this is kind of a transitional trampoline and active entertainment that's heading more, as we've said before, in towards FEC kind of approach.
Yeah, and really interesting to see that amusement is part of this location. Historically, Urban Air has been very anti-amusement, anti-arcade, and maybe they're finally beginning to see the power, the benefit, the revenue opportunities from putting some amusement into one of these facilities.
I would expect them to argue that they're not just run-of-the-mill amusement, but they put in specially handcrafted attractions that, surprise, surprise, take a swipe card. But you're quite right. It is that admittance that the tertiary revenue that amusement can generate is worth the pain and anguish from their point of view. Again, we're seeing a lot of active entertainment in this small snapshot of facility openings this week. Airtopia, it is what it is. It is an active entertainment facility. It's got the climbing. Again, it's got the laser tag. Here, they're part of a 3-facility chain, so they're at the urgent beginning point of the process rather than 400 facilities in.
Yeah. And, they do have some expansion plans in mind. The only reason I happen to know this is Airtopia happens to be one of IntelliPlay's customers, and they are going to be installing and going live with IntelliPlay at this location as well as their other 2 locations. And so, they definitely are looking to provide a more gamified experience across their standard adventure park model.
We will touch upon that aspect from a different direction, but active entertainment incorporating gamification in a coming sound off. It is interesting how many venues are beginning to understand that they need stickiness, as we like to say. They need the retention of their audience, and nothing draws people back than having your high score on a particular attraction beaten. The VR side, again, the VR experience or adventure that I like to touch upon here in Poland. They've bit the bullet and they have a wide space available, so they've gone for multiple layers. They have the free roaming VR component, they have a seated VR component, and they also have an immersive projection component to the facility that they have generated. This is your art box. I like the name. I don't like the use of the metaverse, but I'm sure if they expand this concept, that will be airbrushed from history.
Yeah, I mean, why? I love the name Art Box, and it goes well with the logo. Like, why did you have to throw the word metaverse onto it? I just don't understand. Like, that was not needed at all. But at least they're trying to do something a little bit more unique.
And you'll notice on their website that their brand and logo is now Artbox Experience. So maybe the metaverse has migrated into an experience.
Yeah.
Level Up, an interesting one. Previously here in Washington State, there was a happy little golf lounge minding its own business, very small throughput. It was a unique environment, and then bish bash bosh, in comes a brand new operation. They rip out the golf machine. They put in a family-friendly entertainment experience aimed at a much younger audience. Very light on the video kinds of entertainment, very heavy on the mini golf and the family watchable kind of a family that plays together, stays together approach.
Yeah, I mean, very light on but also very light on their website efforts. It's pretty terrible. But
Homebrew. It's a homebrew.
it's yeah, that's about all it is. Yeah, it's pretty rough.
They broke the cardinal rule of using the term level up, and the rest is just, it's going to be a flexible entertainment space that's going to pivot to social. I don't know the catchment. I didn't go into the details of the catchment in that Walla Walla. I love that name. Area, but it is clear that if a golf lounge couldn't survive, then going for a younger audience is a needed pivot.
Yeah, especially when you're going to name something Level Up and you don't have any amusement or arcade whatsoever. It's just such a strange name and brand, and what they're going for.
There's a lot of empty space in this facility. As I was looking at the pictures, I wouldn't be surprised if more is coming soon. But we can't get too ahead of ourselves here. Flight Club, renowned, nearly 30 facilities now dotted around internationally, and I really do mean internationally with Flight Club. We've been having a lot of discussion about competitive socializing from the conference that I was at of time of recording, and now we're kind of seeing some of the chains cookie cuttering it. They've worked out exactly what their audience wants. They've worked out their capex and their ROIs, and they can just roll them out relatively easy. The staffing becomes the hardest part of the process rather than the entertainment. And Flight Club is one of those. Another facility in the UK, another group of several darts bays supported by shareable menu, touchscreen. Again, I would say that this is on the phase one approach of competitive socializing, and the danger is that products like our friends at 501 Fun are really on the phase two of the application of social entertainment darts. So, I would expect within the next couple of months, if not year, that our friends at Flight Club are going to have to think of a spring clean of their concept to stay competitive.
Yeah, I think that's totally accurate. And while I love their themality and aesthetic in their spaces, I really do love the way that their bays are broken up and spread throughout the facility. I think they do a great job not making you feel like you're in these bunch of donkey stalls sitting next to each other. They really give you your private space, even if they're not even formal VIP rooms. There's so many things that they do well. Their gameplay is actually pretty good, even though, like you said, their projection mapping isn't, the actual experience of playing darts is not nearly as dynamic as a 501 Fun's version. But my concern for them really is the fact that they are a single attraction, competitive socializing Gen 1, version. And this is going, I think, to ultimately bite them in the ass as they really begin to expand.
And it's one of those things that we're going to touch upon in Sound Off regarding those Gen 1s. Are we at a point where, maybe if they don't catch up with the rest, they'll be left behind? And that, I don't want people to get the wrong idea of suddenly waking up and seeing certain of these competitive socialized venues falling by the wayside and thinking that the bubbles burst or it's the end of the world. It's just that if you don't stay competitive in a competitive socializing entertainment environment, you might find that your audience has got other things to do with their time.
Indeed.
Jump yards, the theme of this particular open and shut has been active entertainment. Maybe we're at a lull and the active entertainment venues following the Easter out and heading towards May and June are in a good position to start opening new venues in hot locations. Jump yards, the German chain that this is their first German facility, but they are the European chain. They are expanding, 28, 29 facilities, kinds of tells you that they're at that sweet spot. we are at that kind of 28, 30 number for quite a few chains. If you look through my database of international entertainment facilities, we have 3 groupings, and the onesies and the twosies are their own thing. Then we have the 10s and the 20s and the 30s, and then we have the hundreds of facilities. And that argument of franchised against self-owned against wing and a prayer really does shape out where this market's going.
Yeah. Junkyard does do some really interesting differentiated things in their facility, the way that they've done their lighting and their layouts. And so they are, pretty dynamic visually. And so, they make it a little bit more of like a party when you're there versus, it's more like, when we used to have bowling, and they would do the cosmic bowling nights, and the black lights would go on and the lights would go dim and you'd go bowl. It's a little bit of that feel to their facilities, at least during the evenings. And so they have a differentiation there. And yeah, they're very strong in the European market, especially with many locations in Spain. So I would not be surprised to see them continue to expand throughout Europe and, maybe cross the Atlantic, but it would be surprising for them to come over here, primarily just because we're already so heavily saturated with adventure parks and trampoline parks here.
I'm more interested to see if they can move into a very crowded European market with something that differentiates them from the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree about the dark light. I also feel that they have a very good package scheme. So they hook people in to become regular attendees. Mm-hmm. They haven't added as much gamification as I thought they were going to do, but I may be speaking ahead of myself. Our friends at Dave & Buster's are still rolling out facilities, and Pennsylvania gets another one, 41 thou. And sadly, all I have is the rendering from outside and a generic rendering or picture of Dave & Buster's eating restaurant area Mark II inside. Hopefully we'll get someone to go around this and find out if it is new level application or just run-of-the-mill application. From what I've seen, it looks like it's a very artistically interesting venue. It's just how much they have built upon the lessons learned with their social base and all of the other stuff.
Yeah, well, it looks unique. it does look different. It still looks heavily overbuilt on the F&B side, on the restaurant side. But yeah, I feel like the lessons learned feel like it's just less space in the restaurant area. But they continue to seem to miss that.
They seem to miss that purposefully, and we're getting some feedback from some of the recent departures at Dave & Buster's that there's a little bit of an internal battle going on about where the corporation should be focusing its energies, and those that really wants to get away from the bad burger and chicken wings mentality are working very hard to say that it is the ambience or the vibe of the area that plays a part in that, which time will tell. But we have hit a milestone with them, 180 facilities. Bottle of champagne opens, but sadly not for the investors.
Yeah, and it's only a matter of give it 2 years before that store has sees same store sales declines. So
unless they pull a magic move out of their derriere, but again, a conversation for a sound off, I think. India is interesting regarding the development of new competitive socializing. We've seen it in Indonesia, we've seen it in Vietnam, and now the UAE seems to be the leaders in innovation of competitive socializing, unique brands opening. In the troubles that this particular area is under at the moment has kind of overshadowed the opening of this new operation. But if you take the time and look at their web presentation, it looks an interesting new interpretation of the competitive socializing model written for a UAE audience.
Yeah, it's it's pretty it's a little bit grungy, not in a bad way.
Yeah.
Like, they're going for the grunge
Garage.
yeah, the garage grunge look and feel. They've got Route 66, which is really interesting. I mean, they're really trying to pull, I think, from some Americana
Yes.
feel. There's some planes, but then it's a little bit of a mixed bag as far as what they're trying to, I think, message with their theming. But yeah, it's they've got some bowling and arcade. You can see the stream here a little bit if you're watching versus listening. And some of their arcades are some old school style, like generic, looks like multi-game boxes too, potentially.
They are.
So, here we have to have that question again about, who's paying the licensing for what for some of those boxes.
In the UAE, good luck trying to sort that one out. It's more of an issue in the European and North American market. But hey, they've gone for, as you say, that garage approach, and we will have to wait and see if this is sticky enough with their audience, who is now becoming very sophisticated with competitive socializing venues. And we still don't know how the disposable income spend is going to be impacted by current conditions. Star Park, Pennsylvania, third of a chain that's just opened up, aimed at a very young audience, but it has F&B, it has some amusement, though I get the feeling that amusement may actually just be foosball tables kind of application. But it is an active entertainment aimed at a very young audience, and you can tell that I was groping at the bottom of the barrel for new openings when I included this.
Yeah, it is. Look, it is what it is for its location, and I'm sure there'll be some phenomenal under 8-year-old, under 6-year-old parties going on there.
And that's what they're there for, and that is a very limited audience.
Yep.
To the shots, and we stagger across yet again a kind of underpins what we were saying in a previous open shot, which is if you put nothing in, you get nothing out. And the Infinity Trampoline Park has bit the bullet. They're part of a chain of 2 facilities. So one of their facilities in Inverness is gone. We will have to wait and see if this is a domino and the other site will go, or whether someone jumps in and revitalize what looks to be, from the pictures we have available to us, a very tired trampoline park. It made someone a profit some time ago, but now not so.
I'm a little bit surprised. What kind of licensing issues would they have run into as one of their closing, reasons for closing? Obviously, rising operational costs, sure, essential renovations that weren't done, but licensing issues is a very strange one to call out as a reason to close for a trampoline park anyway.
It may be that they had to have a specific license for a product within their facility, a card system, or they may have needed a license to still keep on operating as a jump entertainment facility within the Inverness area. It was not made clear. We were just given a list of excuses thrown at us as the individuals jumped in the van and drove away. I would expect, depending if the licenses aren't operational, that someone will jump into there very quickly. Though grabbing a tired trampoline facility and upgrading it, or putting something totally new for the entertainment catchment considerations. I need to clarify something. We'll go into a little bit more about this in Sound Off, but for all of our open and shut fans, if we say somewhere has closed or fallen into liquidation and has closed, it doesn't mean that they stay closed. The zombie situation exists. Once the administrators come in, they can turn around and say, other than a facility that's in dispute with the landlord, if this facility is prepared to still allow us to operate and generate revenue and keep our staff on board and fulfill the back orders we have, then they will keep on going. So I was driving along, and I drove past Moonshots in White City in London, and I said, oh, they're open. I did the due diligence, and they, along with 14, or should I say 13 other Sixes venues that went into administration in December have continued operationals under administration advice. So I'm led to believe that the administrators are very close to making an announcement of who is going to be the lucky buyer, recipient of the Sixes chain, and whoever it is, we wish them the best of luck. But this is just another example of the zombified where, hey, they fell into administration, the lights are off and everybody goes. Not necessarily.
Yeah. Well, do wish whoever the buyer is lots and lots and lots of luck.
And two very good ears to listen to some
indeed.
serious advice, but we can touch upon that a little later on. And acquisitions are about. Again, we'll talk about this later on, but Lane 7, who are in an active spree of acquisition, repositioning, and doing what we've said at the beginning of this episode, which is positioning themselves for the future going forwards from their brands. They've acquired a competitive socializing chain in the UK, two venues under the Par 59 brand. And I would say from the research, Par 59 had been on our radar, on our database, but they hadn't been on our radar. And what they've done in their sites is quite an impressive competitive socializing approach. It is not cookie cutter. Some of their venues have a lot more social entertainment elements than their other site, which is more focused on a stylized indoor mini golf experience, as both of them have, but one much more than the other. Anyway, under the acquisition by Lane 7, one of the Par 59 sites will survive under current branding, and the other one will be turned into a Lane 7.
The Par 59 mix of attractions as well is solid, right? I'm just the mini golf, but they also have the shuffleboard and darts. And while they're not they are somewhat gamified, not as gamified as something like Game Face, obviously, which is being run by Game Volt and Conductor. But they've done a great job. They've done a phenomenal experience and vibe that they have to their place, and so it's a great get for Lane 7. Hopefully, it was a good exit for Par 59. I'm a little bit confused why Cardiff will be rebranded to Lane 7, given the fact that they don't have bowling. But maybe they're planning to put some mini bowling in there or something like that.
Yeah, the company behind the Par 59, was charting, that they've had a great few years in both Cardiff and their other sites.
Bristol, I believe, is one of their other locations. Yes,
Bristol and Cardiff. They only have two sites. And the issue is that they feel that it was actually said in the statement, it is a good time now to move on, which is kind of what we were talking about during the competitive socializing roundtable that we had recently, is that it's not just about coming up with a great idea, but it's working out how long you want to stay with it before you pull the ripcord on your parachute and jump out of the plane. Sometimes it's a good thing to move on to the next shiny object rather than just stay with one particular concept that may need new eyes to look at it. But again, Lane 7 is really working hard to position themselves as a strong player in the competitive socializing sector. 28, 29 facilities in. This will get them up to the magic 30. Anyway, that's a short, truncated rundown of the new openings. And now all eyes will turn to what next week's list of new openings will be, or have we entered a period of pause? If you feel that I need to know about a new opening or need to correct something we've said, LinkedIn's the best way to grab us, though email is also good while we're on the road. We have a number of sound offs coming that go into a little bit more detail on some of the things that we're talking about. Obviously, the Entertainment Social Arena and the Stinger Report are also there to inform. Perfect.
All right. Well, we will see how many are opening and closing next week. Until then, have a great week.
Have a good one.
If you run a location-based entertainment brand and want to attract more visitors, check out Radius. They use real-time location data and customized marketing strategies to help brands like yours stand out. Radius can boost your foot traffic and build a loyal customer base. Plus, they're offering a complimentary local market analysis to show you exactly how they can help you grow. Curious? Visit radius.co and ask about your free market analysis. That's RAYDIUS.co.
All right. Well, that was a great open and shut with Kevin Williams. And, this is just a couple of updates here. We've got Sound Off number 119 with Kevin Williams on Tuesday, April 28th. So just in 2 days. And we are looking for suggestions. We have season 5 of the LBX show coming up in August of this year. And so we just got a couple of months and we're building out a new show, building out a new model and concept. And we're going to keep some stuff, we'll change some stuff, and we're going to figure it out. But we want your feedback, your suggestions. And so you can scan this QR code for the season 5 suggestion box, scan that, fill it out, give us suggestions. We've already had a few good ones coming through the door. And so looking forward to really having a great show. And look, that is a wrap for this week's LBX show. This is Brandon Wiley signing off, and keep kicking ass.